Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to draft this Princess Darts bustier blouse with loops at the back. If this is what you like to learn, please come on, let's dive into the tutorial. Welcome back if you're an old subscriber. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark my shoulder line. The shoulder line I'm working with is 7.5 inches. I've marked it. The neckline is 3 by 3 inches. So the armhole line is also 7.5 inches, as you can see. So the bust line I'm working with now is 10 inches, and the underbust is 13 inches, while the waistline is 15 inches. So I'll connect the line just like so. I'll mark a straight line on the line, just like so, as you can see. After marking the line, the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the hemline, which is just 8 inches after my waistline. So after that, I'm going to connect the neckline, which is 3 by 3 inches, just like so, as you can see. And then I am going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement. The nipple to nipple measurement I'm working with is 3.5 inches. I'm going to mark it right there. And I'm going to mark it on the hem line as well, just so you can see. I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the bust point. I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and after coming down by 1 inch, I'm going to connect the line from the hem line to the 1 inch that I've come down with. I hope you understand. I'm going to come down from that 1 inch, and I'm going to connect the line just like so. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come to my waistline. I made a mistake there. I'm going to correct it. I'm going to come in by ½ inch on both sides of my waistline. I'll come up by 2 inches from the hip line, just as you can see. I'll come up by 2 inches right there, and I'm going to connect it from that line to the waistline, just as you can see, just like so. I'm going to connect it right like that. Then I'll go to my underbust. I'm going to connect it from the waistline to the underbust, to the 1 inch that I've come down by. Yes, just like this. To the 1 inch after the below the bust point. I'm going to mark it just like so. So I'm going to come on both sides by 1/4 of an inch, which is half of half. 1/4 of an inch, half of half inch on both sides of the waistline. I'm going to connect it straight down to the hem line. I hope you understand. I'll connect it down to this hem line just like so, as you can see. Then after connecting it, after that being done, so I'm going to just come to the underbust now, and I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides, ½ inch on both sides, and I'm going to connect it just like so. ½ inch on both sides. For the smaller size, you can go 3/4 on both sides if you're working with a bigger measurement. I'm working with a smaller measurement, so I'm marking ½ inch on both sides after my dart that I've already marked. I hope you understand. So I'm going to have 1½ inch of dart allowance on the underbust, 2 inches, and 1½ inch on the waistline as well. So that being done, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to get my armhole, the midpoint of my arm. So I get the midpoint just like so, and I'll mark it. After getting the midpoint, I'll mark it like this. Then I'll get the bust measurement I'm working with. The bust round measurement I'm working with is 8.5 inches, and I'm going to mark it just like so. Then I'll connect it. I'll come out by ½ inch on the midpoint, just like that, and I'll mark it, as you can see. I'll connect the armhole straight to the shoulder slope, just like so, as you can see. So after connecting it that way, I've marked the armhole line that I'm working with just from the midpoint. I've connected it just like this. So what I did here was, after marking it just like this, I came out on both sides from this part by ½ inch on both sides, just like this, ½ inch on both sides. Then after coming out by ½ inch, then I came out by 1 inch after this armhole line, 1 inch like that. Then I'll come down by 1 inch again, which is the dart allowance. I'll extend the armhole line by 1 inch allowance, and I connect the line just as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark the waist measurement I'm working with is 7 inches. I'll mark 1.5 inches allowance, just like you can see. I'll mark it here. I'll go to my hip line. The hip line I'm working with is 9.25. After dividing it by 4, I got 9.25. I'll mark it just like that, and I'll connect it just as you can see. After doing that, what I'm going to do now is to mark my 1 inch on this part. I'm going to just to have a curve. You can see that the top has a curve, so we're going to have a curve on that part. Came up by 1 inch. You can go up by 1.5 inches if you wish. So it depends on what you want. So I've connected it like that. I'm going to mark my bust dart now. So the difference between the back waistline and the front waistline is 1.5 inches. So I'll mark my 1.5 inches here. Then I'm going to connect it. So I've connected it, as you can see. And the next thing I'm going to do now is just to cut it out. We are done. So I'm cutting it out just like so. Please pay attention and watch the way I'm cutting it out. Please pay attention. So I'm actually cutting it on fold so we can have a proper view of the pattern. So I'm going to stop here because of the bust dart. I'm going to connect it just like this. I'll continue cutting it like this, and you can see how I've cut that place out. So I've held in my bust dart allowance, and I'm done with that. So now I've continued cutting on this part just like this. The shoulder slope that I came down by, I'm going to cut it out now. The neckline, I'm going to cut it out now. Please note that there is no allowance whatsoever at all on this pattern. Please ensure that you add your allowances once you want to cut it on the fabric. Please ensure that you add your allowances, please. So what I'm going to do now is, you can see what we have after we are done cutting. This is what we have. So on the neckline, on this part, we can see there is this part, and you can see that there is a matching net on that side. So we're going to cut. I'm going to just come up a little bit on that part. So this part here now, we're going to cut it out, and we're going to replace it with the net, the matching net, the skin net, on when you want to cut it out on the fabric. Please remember to do that. So we're going to come to the back pattern now, and here I've done my 7.5 inches neckline. The neck and shoulder line, the neck is 3 by 1 inches, 3 inches width and 1 inch depth. The armhole, the same thing as this front, just came in by 1/4 of an inch. So I've marked my 3.5 inches. So now please note that the waistline is not the same thing as the front waistline. The back waistline is different from the front waistline. So the waistline now, you can see we have 13.5 inches here, and we had 15 inches at the front bodice. Please ensure that you know that. So on my waistline, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch on both sides. Come up by 2 inches on the hip line, and then I'm going to connect it just like this. As you can see, I'm going to connect it like this up onto my chest line, and not the bust line now because I'm working with the back. So we're making use of the chest line, just as you can see, chest line. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come up on the chest line. I'm going to come by 1/4 of an inch on both sides, just to tighten that part a little bit, to give it a tightening. On the same, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the hemline, and I'll connect it. You're going to see the way I'm going to connect it. Connect it just like this. Connect it just like this to the chest line, to the hemline at the down part, and you repeat the same thing on the other side, just to have a back tightening around that area. Now, the next thing we are going to do now is to take our body measurement. So the waistline, as you remember, is 7 inches. The bust line is 8.5 inches. And the dart we have there is ½ inch. So I'm going to mark ½ inch right here. I'll mark my waist measurement. So I have 7 inches plus 1 inch I've marked. Hip allowance 9.25 plus ½ inch allowance, just as you can see. And I'll mark it just like so. So I'll connect it just as you can see. And I'll connect it just like so on the hip line as well. I'll come up by 1 inch. The same thing I did for the front bodies, I'm going to repeat it for the back bodies. So I can have a blending hemline. So whatever you come up with at the front bodies, please ensure that you come up with the same value at the back bodies. So I'm going to reconnect my armhole now to the ½ inch that we have extended it by, and I'm going to clean off the old one. Please, you can see the reason why I make use of pencil. I do not want to make use of marker, so that to have a clean pattern. So if you are making use of a zipper, just mark ½ inch inward like this and connect it. The allowance I have for my zipper allowance here is 1.5 inches. That is what I normally make use of, 1.5 inches. So I'm going to connect it just this way, and I'll connect it just this way, and I'll connect it to the upper part as well. Please, I hope you can see. If you have any question, please do well to ask. I'll be willing to respond, please. So I'll connect it just like so. But because I will not be making use of a zipper, I'm going to cut it off like this now. So I just make use of that for the purpose of tutorial. So now I'm going to make use of a loop. Now, so I'm going to come in here by 1 inch. 1 inch. You can, this is for the opening. So you can come up by 1.5 to 2 inches. It depends on how you want it to be open and how big the person is. So I'm working with a small bodies. That is why I'm making use of 1 inch. So this is going to be cut out. Now I'm going to come in again by 1.5 inch now. This is also whatever you wish. So I'm going to come in by 1.5 inch. On the hemline, I'll do the same thing, and I'll connect it just as you can see. So inside the 1.5 inch now, I'm going to go here ½ inch, and I'll mark ½ inch again. I'll do the same thing on the hemline, just to create a channel for our boning, a boning channel. Yeah, so this is where we're going to create a boning channel, 2 boning channel, and in the mid points of the boning channel, we are going to be having our loop. I hope you understand. We're going to be having our loop, as you can see. So we're going to be having our loop just like this. I'm just marking this actually. You know, you can, however you want your loop to, the space that you, whatever space you want in between them, you can just mark it there. So this is after, I'm going to be cutting this out now. So now I'm going to come up here to this. I'm going to design the bag that I want. I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch. You can come down by 1 inch actually. So I'm going to, from this part that I have, this here, I'm going to just pick up my curve driller, and I'm going to create the design that I want at the back, just like so. You can use whatever back that you design that you want, but this is what I want. I'm going to be fixing a button there. So this is what I want. That is why I'm making use of it. So once I'm done with that, what I'm going to do now is to cut it out. So I'm going to cut it out, as you can see. Cut it out just like this. Cut out the shoulder slope. So I'll come here and I'll remove the first 1 inch that we have that's going to be cut out. I'm going to remove it first. Please ensure that you take a proper, pay attention to the way I'm cutting it so you can know how to cut it. So I'm going to cut out just this way, and I'll come to the neckline, and I've cut the neckline out just like so. So here I'm cutting our dart. I want to cut the dart out. I'm cutting out the darts now. So I've split that. Okay, so I have it splitted out now. So I'm cutting out the darts, as you can see. I'll cut it out just like so. So if you want to leave it like this, you can, and just sew it like that. But if you want to have your panel, your boning channel, and your back, the loop panel, aside totally, you can just split it this way. I'm having a very small, a tiny piece here because I'm working with a small measurement. So if you are working with a bigger measurement, you're not going to have something as tiny as this, but this is what I have after I'm done cutting. So just mark your arrow there so you can know where the upper part is and how you're connecting it. So I'm just going to mark it just this way. I'm going to arrange it this way, and this is what we have. So if this video has been helpful to you, please do well to subscribe, like, and share, please. I'll appreciate if you can subscribe, like, and share my page. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.